Chapter 4. 2 days after Billy spoke to Robo on the phone, he got the call. The season was a go, as he hoped it would be. The assignments had been sent, and there would be no meeting in LA this year. The cast would go directly to the first location, work for 2 days on how the first show would be shot and how they would investigate. Then everyone involved would begin filming. Signing agent scoured contracts would be all that remained. And amazingly enough, each cast member would receive a raise, proof the show had been a hit. Inking the cast for another season would be a formality. So why did Billy have such a gnawing knot in the pit of his stomach? An intuitive sense of apprehension was telling him to beware. Billy called Robo first, and then Rink. 1 week. Both of them would be ready. He would call Gable Marks last, not because he would be a difficult sell, but because the conversation would be long. One long gripe session. Gable would not be happy that fewer camera operators would accompany the group. He would not be happy with the producer chosen. There would be 100 ways the show could be done better. Gable knew it all. If he had not been a player in the first 2 seasons, Billy would have never wanted him back. The former lawyer's poor attitude seemed to work in his favor, though. The show needed an antagonist, and the audience tests confirmed that Billy was not the only one who had an aversion to Gable. Rink was excited about the news and the extra pay. She was a professional, but she also had to get her Estes Park, Colorado home life in order to go make some money. The usual dealings of finding someone to watch the house, getting the mail stopped, and the bills paid, and the yard mowed were easy to handle. Finding someone to look after her aging mother was another matter altogether. She would have to see Neil. Rink rang the doorbell and then looked over her shoulder across the expanse of yard. She had been to Neil's house only once before and swore she would never return. Once upon a time in another life, it could have been hers. That thought gave her some heartburn, but she was never really interested in money anyway. She reconsidered and decided that wasn't the reason she hadn't ever wanted to return. He was an ass, albeit a gorgeous ass with a gorgeous ass, and his self-centered conceit was the reason she never wanted to return. A dog barked somewhere, and she looked out into the fading evening and wondered if the doorbell had worked. Non-working doorbells would fit Neil's M.O. She was peeking to look through the slim glass opening into the living room when the door flew open, causing Rink to stagger backward. Neil's eyes smiled at the scene. "I didn't know if—" The statement hung there. Neil wore shorts. Nothing else. Sweat glistened on his sculpted chest. A lock of curly black hair hung across his forehead. That same crooked smile. Those same perfect teeth. How could a man be a doctor and look like Neil? A familiar butterfly fluttered in her stomach. The dance of 1,000 nights of passion spent blotting out 200 days of battle in the divorce. "I thought you said you'd never come back here." "I didn't think I ever would. Listen, can I come in?" Neil continued to smile and waved his hand like a matador as his home opened up in front of her in dark, manly colors of deep mahogany and steel bathed in Neil's smell and testosterone. At some point, Neil had found a towel and he hung it around his neck and leaned on the back of an expensive-looking couch. "So, what brings you here?" Mom." Rink looked up into his eyes and shifted her weight. She always felt like a little girl around Neil. "I'm going to Tennessee." "Continue." "Neil, I have to go to Tennessee. We're starting another season. Mom's alone. I don't want to impose." Rink stopped. She had no idea where she was going with this. Why had she thought she needed to convince Neil to keep an eye on her mother while she was away? Why had she thought he had any obligation to do so? Why was she here? It had all been so much easier before the divorce. Had the arguments been that bad? What had they wanted that they could not achieve together? Rink looked away and thought about running, just like she had before. She wanted to get out and get away. Why was she frightened this time? And before she could grow angry at herself, she began to cry. She didn't want to. She shouldn't. Still, she cried. Come here. Neil gathered her into his arms and pulled her head onto his chest. He pushed her hair back away from her face and eyes. Tell me what's going on. What's wrong with your mother? Nothing's wrong with Mother. I have to be away a few months, probably. Maybe. It might not be that long. It might be longer. She doesn't have anyone. Her breath caught in her throat and she snubbed. And you want me to check on your mother? Neil, she loves you. She's always loved you. I think for a while she hated me when we split up. I love your mom too. Neil pushed her away and looked into her eyes. You could just call. You wouldn't have to go by there. You could just, have someone check on her. Shh. I can pay you something. Rink, you can't pay me anything. I mean, you don't have to pay me. I'll check on your mother. Really? Really. When do you leave? Neil released her and walked across the long room and through the open dining area into the kitchen. Rink could hear a refrigerator open and Neil returned with 2 bottles of water. 2 days. Rink looked around the room once more. It didn't appear as if a woman had been present, but she possessed none of those instincts that alerted most women when competition lurked. Why had she come here? Really? Why had she done it? What was she looking for? She was a biologist, not a behavioral scientist. Right now, she wished she was. What had brought her here? You look good, Rena. Neil. No one called her Rena anymore except Neil. It pinched a nerve somewhere deep inside her chest, and a longing wound around her heart, making it ache. Really, you do. You look good, too. The practice is going well? I work entirely too much, but you know that. Rink didn't answer. That was the crux of their breakup. Well, that and the fact that Neil liked sleeping with other women. Lots of them. So yeah, that had been a reason, but not the big one. I need to take a shower. Stick around. We'll call in Chinese. No, I need to go. I think I need to go. Just let me rinse off. Neil held his hands out as if holding her there in place as he backed away and then around the corner into what must have been a bathroom. Rink heard the water begin to run and then the shower. I saw Susan the other day, Rink said, loud outside the door. She gazed around the room, but nothing caught her attention. Do what? I said I saw Susan the other day. Open the door a crack. Rink opened it a little, and the smell of Old Spice soap swam around her face. Do you see Jeff? I haven't in a year, Neil said. It sounded like water was running over his face. I can't really go out with them since you and I aren't together. They were friends as a couple. It's weird now. You could see Jeff. You guys did everything. Rink looked away from the open door. Somehow, even though they had been so intimate at one time, it didn't seem right now. Could you hand me a razor from the cabinet? Neil, I think... It's just a razor. He peeked around the curtain. There was fluffy shampoo in his hair, standing as it waved, frozen comically in place. He was smiling. I could get out and get it myself. Rink walked into the room and over to the bureau, but the image in her mind began to grow. She could remember that sight. The indentations of his muscles at the top of his hips undulating, a small pathway down into the curly hair. Here. She handed the razor toward the shower, averting her eyes. Why was it so hot in here? You don't have to look away. You've seen everything I have to offer. Yes, I do have to look away. We're not married now. We weren't married when we went to San Francisco. Remember the Muir Woods? Rink looked up, and all she could see was Neil's face peering around the curtain again, grinning big now. She smiled back. She could remember the Muir Woods. I can't do this, Neil. Can't do what? You know. She tried to sound sincere and failed. I have enough problems as it is without getting something else going on. You can walk away. You can fly to Tennessee. He began opening the shower curtain. Really? Who would want to go anywhere in Tennessee? Neil. What in God's name is in Tennessee? I don't know. Maybe a Bigfoot. His smile had vanished. The look on his face told Rink that her former husband realized that this scene would not go as he had planned. When he didn't get his way, the game was over. I'll look in on your mother. You don't have to worry. The water continued to run. Okay. Okay, then, Rink said. She looked around the room self-consciously. Thank you. No problem, he said, shutting the curtain. When Neil opened the curtain, Rink was gone. She had a date with Bigfoot in Tennessee.